Hey guys, this is Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Magic in general this year. Yeah, got a lot of stuff to go through. Definitely a lot of interesting things to go over, let's get into it. Alright, so the first set of the year we had Ravnica Legions, the second set in the three set block of Ravnica. I think it's basically a three set thing, more or less. Um, so yeah, this had some interesting cards. Had some really pretty silly cards. I mean, obviously stuff like Hydroid Crassus, pretty powerful. But at least that one takes like need a bunch of mana to really get that guy going. And you have stuff like Wilderness Reclamation, which obviously caused issues with Nexus of Fate, be able to loop Nexus of Fate a million times, and the big thing was that Nexus of Fate, you couldn't even play it in tournaments half the time because it was warped, because it's only in foil, and B, it was like a box topper thing for Core 19 from last year. So yeah, that was kind of an issue. So not only was the gameplay bad with the Wilderness Reclamation decks, but the card itself was hard to get and you couldn't even play it. They gave you proxies, which is just why. So I'm just gonna be drinking. I'm just gonna be drinking the entire time. I mean, I hope that's not a spoiler alert. This entire thing is just, oh lordy. All right. Also, big problem is the third time we went back to Ravnica, and holy shit, I just don't give a fuck anymore. I don't care. I just don't care. The story's so bad. Like, it's really depressing. Like, the first time we went to Ravnica, I loved it. Like, Ravnica was such a cool set. Obviously, you had the Shocklands, which were awesome. The story itself was really good with Agris Kos, and like it was like a crime drama and stuff, and like you had this new setting, and everything was really cool and interesting. And then you had like these ghosts that are always around and stuff, and all this crap. Niv Mizzet's a super smart dragon, and his card was cool, and like so many interesting stuff. I mean, you had ridiculous cards like the original Dark Confidant, obviously the entire Dredge mechanic, and so on. I mean, really powerful. I mean, it's very similar in some respects to like Invasion, where it was like a powerful set, but it was balanced, it was multicolored, and all that good stuff. It obviously held up over time, and of course, it was a great draft set. Man, it was so much fun. Like just the way the set evolves, like as you were drafting it over time. People would end up, good players at least, end up taking signets and bounce lands much higher, and that was really cool. That was really fun. I had so much fun drafting that. I mean, it was just like, because I just, before that, you were drafting Champions Block, which was awesome. And then you go from like an awesome draft set to probably an even awesomer draft set. Uh, Champions probably doesn't get as much love as it should. The entire set, just in general drafting. But, anyways, story was good. The cards were good. Everything was good. It was like a home run. Uh, Introduced really important stuff. Obviously, the Shocklands, all that good stuff. Um, Introduced Dredge. Again, that's a pretty big thing. Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. But the second and third time we went back, obviously, second time it's just like the story just didn't care, and then Dragon's Maze was garbage, and the cards are just like, okay, whatever. I mean, just really meh. And then the third time, again, this most recent time, again, I mean, there's good cards and stuff, but it's just like, we didn't have like a Dragon's Maze third set, although the third set did have its own problems. But yeah, I just didn't care. Just didn't really care that much. Like, and War of the Spark was, well, we'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, the cards weren't very interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of issues with design and stuff, and we'll just see that throughout the rest of the year. But I mean, whatever. There was good stuff in Ravnica Legions, just nothing super noteworthy. Although a lot of that's because I'm just not drafting as much, and I don't really play standard too much these days. But I mean, that's kind of like I'd say it's probably like the least problematic set released this year. Probably, something like that. All right, let's move on. I mean, yeah. So the set that we thought they couldn't actually do, they actually did. So a set with a bunch of planeswalkers. I mean, at least it was interesting. It had a bunch of powerful planeswalkers. Some of them seemed very good. Um, but again, there were issues with design where, like, some of them were just not super duper fun, and the problem was like the asymmetrical nature of them. For example, Teferi, Time Raveler. I mean, completely shutting off, well, the stuff that makes magic magic. So its passive ability basically turns it into Hearthstone, much worse game. So having the instant speed interaction, I think, obviously is really important, and having a card that just shuts it down so easily, kind of shitty. So it can be pretty bad or pretty obnoxious, to deal with in control mirrors or mid range versus control mirrors, that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, and there was issues basically in every format with pretty much all of them. That Narset and Karn were very big problems, and Vintage obviously big enough to where they were recently restricted. Again, I mean, I'm pretty much always willing to give them a pass for like Vintage and to a lesser extent Legacy, just because these old formats, card pool's bigger, the color pie was so different back in the day. I mean, the games, like, stuff that breaks in Vintage and Legacy can be obviously completely innocuous in Standard or whatever. So if you look at stuff like Deathrite Shaman or whatever, and even then, in Deathrite Shaman's case, it's worth noting that sometimes in these older formats, it's like, well, we really want people to be able to play their cantrips and their fetches and duels and stuff. So that combination of thing ends up breaking stuff like Deathrite Shaman and Treasure Cruise and so on and so forth, but doesn't cause issues in smaller formats. So sometimes it's like you start banning stuff like Lodestone Golem, where it's like, wow, this is weird, but it's like, oh yeah, you can pay it for like, on turn two for 2 mana, or turn one. So, stuff you have to evaluate in a different context. So it's a little more understandable if they don't have time to test or deal with cards in older formats. But I mean, it's pretty much just everywhere. Everywhere. Like no one really liked Teferi. I mean, I think most of them weren't a huge issue. I mean, obviously Karn's been good in a lot of formats, and a lot of people have been locked out by Mycosynth Lattice. Uh, I wonder how many people have, how many, if there's more people have been locked out by Mycosynth Lattice uh, in formats in like Constructed Magic or like in Commander. I like Mycosynth Lattice, Darksteel Forge, and the Binrel's Disc. That's pretty sweet. You just wipe the board over and over again. Oof, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. That's good memories. Um, but yeah, a lot of really unfun interactions. A lot of like the asymmetrical stuff can kind of like be oppressive or really unfun or obnoxious or whatever. I would say these planeswalkers from World of Spark weren't the worst planeswalkers, even though they were pretty annoying to deal with, some of them. Which is, I'm not exactly sure if that's a good thing. Um, Yikes. Oh yeah, the story was bad. It was weird. It was not good, and the rollout was weird. Like they had like the prequel like come out after the set was out. Like the prequel stuff was coming out like around when Eldraine was coming out. So the story was totally weird. It came out at weird times. Was written by different people and was just bad. I guess the prequel stuff was written by a different guy and was actually pretty good. But yeah, the Greg Weisman stuff was pretty bad, I guess. So I heard. I didn't. I mean, after the really really poor reception, I didn't even want to like touch that thing. So that's ugh, that's unfortunate. And I mean, just the in general of pushing of planeswalkers like so much, it's just like makes me pretty like tired of it. Like, and I really like Teferi. I think he's an awesome character. I think he's interesting. I think he creates a connection to the early part of the game, which is obviously great. I think he's cool. You know, He looks like Idris Elba. That's cool. Karn, obviously, same thing. All these people. It's really super sweet. But I mean, just the problems with that it outlined in my older uh, Planeswalker video I did a little while ago, a couple weeks or whatever. Those problems are still present. Just they're just a little too hard to interact with, especially some Planeswalkers, especially the ones that are coming up. Just too difficult to deal with at parity. They're too cheap. They have too many abilities. They can do too many different things. And they, like I said, they just snowball. Typically, any planeswalker can just snowball out of control, just do a million billion things, and the more they activate it, the more difficult it is to catch up and actually get back in the game. So, yeah, this is a problem. This is a problem. This is not so good. Not so good. All right, and so shortly after War of the Spark came out, we have Modern Horizons. I'm just gonna drink some more right now. I mean, obviously, I wasn't sure if I wanted to put a picture of Ren and Six here or Hogak. Maybe I should just put a picture of them both here. um, yeah. So this is the first set with cards that were reprinted or printed into Modern directly. I mean, I like the idea. I thought it was really cool, and I think there were so many cool, interesting cards that I loved. Um, so, but like the fuck ups were so obviously bad and too much that it's just like, I mean, so yeah, the power level's high, very very high. Um, Obviously, it caused a lot of banning, so we had to ban Ren and Six and Legacy. Hogak very quickly-ish, well, Hogak and basically Bridge too. Um, in Modern, of course. So that's obviously caused some issues. I mean, it basically made Modern not functional for what, a couple months, month or two, something like that. I can't remember. Obviously not very good. Ren and Six was a little bit more manageable in Legacy, but again, just up the win percentage of these random blue decks, whether they're blue mid range Delver decks or actual control decks like the 4-color snow decks or whatever, made them, well, the Delver deck specifically too high for win percentage, like 55 plus percent. So that's, I mean, obviously, like, it comes down, it immediately returns a wasteland or a fetch land or whatever to your hand, so it's immediately out of bolt range. If you play it on turn 2, you're not going to be able to have it be attacked down. If you play it on the second turn, I mean, you can kill their 1-drop, so it oppresses 1-drops. Like we need more things to shit on little creatures, like there aren't enough already. This obviously caused issues where, a lot of the white decks would play Giver runes instead of Mother runes, even though Mom's typically better most of the time, just because they were able to live through Ren and Six. And then, of course, it has a game-winning ultimate with like a lightning bolt and crap like that. So, I mean, it pretty much just did a lot of different stuff for only 2 mana. I mean, clearly this thing is ridiculously pushed. I mean, I don't understand how you would, like, make a set specifically for modern and older formats, and then they're just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to test this thing with Wasteland, where it's basically like a walking crucible of worlds. So, yeah, pretty strange there, I guess. Um, but there were some really cool new cards, stuff like that helps certain specific archetypes, and it's Scale Up for Infect, Munitions Expert for Goblins, both in Legacy and Modern. A lot of good Goblin stuff for Modern. Basically give it everything it needs, mostly, almost. Uh, and then Echo of Eons, another card that's seen a ton of play. Again, a lot of these cards, their effect is still being borne out. Um, so we have the Echo of Aeons deck, like Belcher styles or Ant or TES style decks playing Echo of Aeons, and the play patterns are quite a bit different, but it's a pretty strong card. I mean, it's basically um, Time Twister, that you can cast off your Lion's Eye Diamond or whatever, or only really castable off Lion's Eye Diamond, I guess, as it may be. But there's a lot of really cool, sweet cards. I mean, there's stuff like Ephemerate and some other cards like that Arkham's Astrolabe. This has caused problems in Pauper, and they had to get rid of that, and Ephemerate also, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that caused issues in Pauper. Yeah, without even getting into that, oh my gosh. So yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Um, but yeah, I'd say there's so many really cool, interesting cards that helped a lot of different decks. It's easy to, get lost in like the Hogaaks and Arkham's Astrolabes and stuff. Cards that are obviously very, very, very powerful, required not much to make them better. Um, so yeah. So even though they're batting like over over 500 or whatever, I'm not sure what that idiom is. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Over 500, it doesn't seem very good. But anyways, they hit like 80, 90% of the right power level for most of the stuff, and is pushed a little too hard on some stuff. And it's like, okay, gotcha, I get it. Just one mistake, right? Just the one mistake, right? Oh boy, here we fucking go again. Jeez, fuck. Alright, so just the one mistake, right? So, Core Set 2020. It had Goblin Ringleader, so you can play basically your entire Goblin stack in Modern, so that's cool. But also had bullshit like Veil of Summer and the Field of the Dead. Like, again, cards that, Veil of Summer is obviously like pretty pushed. I'll get into that one in a sec, but Field of the Dead has been basically all over the place. I mean, the first time I saw it, I'm like, oh, I could play this in lands. That seems kind of interesting. It actually was pretty poo-pooed, actually, the first time it was spoiled. A lot of people didn't really seem to like it, but when obviously it's a low effort, creature generator that's basically impossible to stop outside of Wasteland or Blood Moon or something like that. And it's obviously been very, very good. So now you have like decks like lands that can pump out like a whole bunch of like random 2/2 zombies, or you can make a 20/20 Merit Lage depending on what you're going for. As It's a backup plan, Field of the Dead for Amulet Titan. Was pretty sweet. I mean, and this isn't even getting to what it did in Standard for its short time there, which was obviously problematic. So yeah, I mean, at least like Field of the Dead, you're like, okay, this was just a plant, so it could play well with Scapeshift, but the deck was seemingly even better after Scapeshift rotated. So yeah, that was interesting. Um, so yeah, another fuck up there, just another random mistake that we can't possibly hold them to account for. And Veil of Summer. So yeah, this fucking card. Like, I mean, a lot of these cards I don't have any problem with, mostly because I play like Commander or Legacy or whatever, where most of these cards just fit in more or less fine, even though they're like really, really powerful. Some of the, more powerful cards they've printed recently, they'll just be cards in Legacy, like powerful cards. It's like, yeah, okay, we can play powerful cards. It's how it works. But just the design philosophy behind something like Veil of Summer, where WotC will say, hey, we don't like the idea of counterspell in like Modern because people, like I said, they this doesn't make any sense, but oh, they won't be able to, we like how they have to choose their counter spells. I'm like, choosing between shit? Like, I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean, if all you had was like bad shock variants, you wouldn't be like, oh, sorry, we can't print like, uh, Incinerate or Lightning Strike because you need to play bad shocks because that's skill testing is choosing which bad card you want to play. It's like, okay, dude, like, whatever, fucking retard. And then they print something like this, and it's like, I mean, if you're even playing like this blows out counterspell, like I don't understand. Like any, against like discard and stuff. I mean, this is such a better reactive spell than something like counterspell. I just don't understand like how they're like, oh, this is too powerful, too reactive, and then they print something like this, and it's like, I mean, sure, it's a sideboard card, but like, there's like 20 lines of text on this fucking thing. They just keep adding like words to things and pushing them, and I'm like, what? I don't understand. It's just another mistake, just another mistake, a different kind of mistake. They just keep making more and more mistakes, keep pushing more and more cards. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Okay, fuck this. All right, let's go on to the next one. Finally, something you cannot be pissed off at. This is fucking stupid. Commander stuff worked out pretty well for the most part. Um, 4 different decks, they're all pretty much good, except the Madness one. I just don't think Madness works in Commander. I don't think that's really very good, especially red black. I mean, just like I said previously, more or less, just it's too small ball. Like you can't get these like small little like resource or card advantage and stuff like that with these like 3 mana 3/3s or whatever. Like no one gives a shit. Like this is the format with big dick plays. Like no one gives a fuck if you jacking off with your fucking reckless worms or something. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Like just everything is just so bleh. Don't care. But I did get the Kadena deck, and that one was really fun. I like playing with all the morph stuff. That was cool. I liked it. Um, yeah, I liked it. I like playing with all the weird old morph cards. I bought I think like I bought every single morph card in these colors. Uh, oh, except Scornful Egotist. I don't think I got that one, but that one wasn't. I don't think it really fits. Doesn't really do much. But anyways, yeah. So fucking Kadena. So this at least was basically a home run. For the most part, it was good. Commander 2019 was pretty sweet. So yeah, there you go. Okay, so this is a big fuck up. So obviously, Oko didn't work out too well. Once Upon a Time didn't work out too well. Um, yeah, I mean, I like the fairy tale stuff. I like the adventure stuff. I like a bunch of the stuff, but yeah, not testing your marquee planeswalker or your turbo free impulse. I don't understand. I just I mean, how retarded are you? This is the face of the set. We're just not gonna test it. I mean, okay, cool. Uh, Hang on. Oh, there's something nice I can say. I like the story. I thought the story was pretty cool. Um, yeah, I like the Kenrith twins and their history or whatever. Because their mom's like some witch or something, which is kind of sweet. But like the king is married to some like black chick, so obviously like they're not like her children, obviously, because they're not like mixed race. They're literally Aryan looking or whatever. So I'm like, wait, what? I mean, they even hint at it in the book a couple times. So like, oh yeah, you're clearly not like the queen's children, obviously, because like the king and the queen did have actual children, and it looked like they were mixed race or whatever, not Nordic super soldiers or whatever. So yeah, but the book was pretty interesting, pretty cool. I think Oko's characterization was kind of wonky. I like the stuff they did with Garuk though. That was cool. Pretty interesting. Seems like he can, well, I don't want to spoil too much. I think I already spoiled enough. I'm screwing everything up, but the set I liked a lot. Obviously, they pushed too hard on some stuff. I mean, what more can you say? What more can I say? I mean, yeah. So everything else I said about Planeswalkers and pushing cards and just adding lines of text and all that just applies here. So, okay, this thing, Mystery Booster. Technically, it was released this year at like the Magic Fest or GPs, I think is what they used to be called. The Magic Fest were the old GPs, I think. Anyways, Mystery Booster got released at one or two of those, and it's basically a Chaos Draft. So if you don't know, Chaos Draft is just basically taking all these different sets that weren't meant to be drafted together and drafting them together. That's pretty sweet. I always like that. That was fun. And then they have these random uh, playtest cards, as you can see here. They're just like strange and weird, and some of them are like obscenely good. Some of them are just like bad or weird, or just like cards they couldn't print because it wouldn't work like in the normal game of Magic the way it works now. With like too many memory issues or other sorts of logistical problems. But yeah, so I know, seems cool. I think it's actually supposed to be released next year around February or March or April or something. I don't know. I don't know if I'll get any of it, but it seems cool. A lot of reprints and stuff, but like it won't really do much to actually reduce the need for reprints, but it should be cool anyway. So, I mean, this one seems like a more or less a home run. Oh, also, I guess they're going to do something interesting with the foil slot, and I think it's every pack has a foil, I believe, but they didn't say what they're going to do with the foil cards in the set. Who knows? Anyways, let's move on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Here we go, baby. Now we're talking. So this is interesting. This is probably the most interesting. I guess save the best for last. The most interesting product Wizards has released, and this is like a bunch of different. I don't want to say decks, but basically just singles that they're selling on the Wizards website directly. So I bought a couple of these. I bought the Kaleidoscope Killers, which is just a bunch of 5-color legends. As you can see here, one of them was the Dragon. And then the other one was the Explosion Sounds one, because I love goblins. And I collect all goblin stuff. And even though, like, the art is, like, not my style at all, I still kind of like it. It's still kind of novel and unique. So I bought that one. And I didn't have any issues buying them. Um, Although uh, it did say they shipped, but I don't think they actually shipped. At least that's what UPS said. I don't quite know. They were like anywhere from 30 to 40 bucks. The Dragon Kaleidoscope Killers 5-color one, which had Reaper King, Sliver Overlord, and Dragon, was like 40 bucks. Um, but they're all foil and stuff too, which is pretty sweet. So I mean that's basically like what you would expect. Um, and a lot of these things all had like different kind of weird art with like different art styles that like Magic typically doesn't go into, that you couldn't really put in like a Magic set because it clashes too much. So I do like the idea of them just doing this stuff like kind of as like singles, which is really cool. And being able to get single cards out to people just by themselves is really nice. I mean, for example, the Bitter Blossom one is just literally Bitter Blossom and Bitter Blossom tokens, but it creates panorama, which is kind of cool. Um, I mean, I guess that's nice. Like, Bitter Blossom doesn't really see that much play, but I mean, reprinting a semi-expensive cards like 30, 40 bucks uh, is good. So, that's cool. Um, yeah, so I like that they're doing different stuff. I like that they're really experimenting with the art. For example, some of this stuff, the Kaleidoscope Killers one, has like just art that's looks like from like a comic book, from the 90s, or maybe yeah, pretty much like the 90s. And I think that's kind of cool. I mean, the kitty one has just like digital kitty art. Some of them just have totally different like tones or whatever. Like the graveyard one looks like it's all just done by Mike Mignola, but obviously he didn't do it. although that would have been sweet. So these things are all over the place. All sorts of different kinds of art, and I don't know, like, because the way that they're offering them, it's a limited time thing. You're in 24 hours, but if you order during that time, you'll always get one. So it's sort of like limited, but not. I don't know, like financially, what the value of these ones are, how it's going to work. I mean, I like the Kaleidoscope one, the Kaleidoscope Killers. That one's good. That one has good cards, pretty sweet stuff, good art. I think most people like. I think it'll be certainly desired. Obviously, the one with all the dredge cards is good and will probably be desired too. I mean, the cat one is just like cats or whatever, so I mean, it's just random commander stuff. The goblin one is like commander stuff and or legacy and modern stuff, but like the art's kind of wonky, can throw people off, and it may or may not be as desired. So I mean, it's just kind of like all over the place. I mean, I don't know, the Bitter Blossom one obviously is just dependent on the value of Bitter Blossom, right? So who knows? Who knows how that'll end up shaking out? I have no clue. Uh, but I think they will at least hold the value, so they're pretty cool. Oh, and they also come with the stained glass planeswalkers. I think they all come with different ones. Not sure how that works, but that's pretty cool. The stained glass planeswalkers from War of the Spark, I should say. So pretty sweet. So overall, um, I need another drink. This is terrible. I mean, I don't know. It design's just fucking up. Everything is just retarded. Just they're making the same mistakes they already learned. They're doing the same shit that they always knew was bad. They're like, oh, cantrips, blah blah blah. Can't have preordain in modern because like some reason or something. Here's once upon a time. It's like how I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense how like they don't have like a logic. It feels like it's really schizophrenic. Like it doesn't seem like they have like hard and fast rules. And it's like, yeah, you do want to push things, but it's like you keep pushing things and fucking up over and over and over again. Like these last 2 or 3 years, like we've had a shitload of bans in standard where that's literally outside of the beginning of Magic when standard was like literally a new format. Everything's still taking shape, trying to figure stuff out. Bans just didn't really happen. I mean, outside of like Urza's block, which was, I think that was just like completely designed. I mean, there wasn't much development, much, testing these academies and Yawgmoth bargains and stuff. I mean, outside of that, I mean, it was pretty quiet most of the time, and there was some good standard seasons. There were issues and stuff. I mean, that's always going to happen in these small sets, but things were pretty okay, except for, like the occasional fuck up, like affinity, right? That was a big one, and equipment in general. That was a big problem too. Um, yeah, so I mean, that's it. They're they're clearly not doing a very good job, right? It's not hard to make like the format not shitty. I mean, well, it's a hard job, but like it can be done, and they're just not doing it. I mean, they gotta have more resources now than they did like 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? So what the fuck is the deal? Like, what are you doing, right? You're are you even paying attention? Like, what's happening? Like, I mean, this is just, I mean, especially in the case of Oko, like, they just literally never tested it in its final form, right? I mean, why you wouldn't test your, marquee flagship Planeswalker when they've been problems, whether they need to be banned or not, say, like in Jace's case, or in Gideon's case, where it didn't need to be banned, but he took over the format and people had to deal with him for a couple years, like, not fun. So what's the problem? Like, and they said and their article where they're talking about banning all these cards that like, oh, Throne of Eldraine's like the right power level, but we missed the boat on some things. I'm like, I don't know if I should feel heartened by that or not. I mean, I just don't understand. And like pushing all these green cards so hard, like, is also weird. I mean, it feels like I would say it's just like just a random confluence of events where things just like screw up, but like they screwed up pretty much on every axis like a million different times, right? Like free spells. Well, here's Hogak. Oh, here's Once Upon a Time. Oh, here's Planeswalkers that are pushed too hard, that are too cheap. I mean, here's a card that's basically like a mental misstep that replaces itself, that protects all your stuff from everything, right? Like, I mean, it's just it just doesn't make any sense. They talk about Counterspell being too good, but then they print Veil. They talk about cantrips being too good, and they print Once Upon a Time. I mean, I just what lesson has been learned? I mean, they've learned all these lessons before, but like clearly they don't put any extra time into being like, shit, that's a free spell. Oh, it's only once a game. Maybe we should test it anyways. Free spells have been problematic in the past. Oh, here's an extremely efficient 3-mana Planeswalker. Those have been, we've had issues with Planeswalkers that are too cheap at 4 mana. Maybe we should test this one, right? I mean, it's just what I can't make any excuses for them. This is just complete incompetence. Like, who are these like idiots that they've got working for them? Like, I could do a better job. This is fucking retarded. Like that. I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You know, like, I mean, they just don't care, or they just don't know. They're just too stupid. So, yeah, that's this year in general. People unironically say that how they'd rather just delete this year, of all the cards added to the formats. Well, I can certainly see that. I mean, typically these things calm down in, 4 or 5 years, everything's okie dokie. Maybe the most egregious card or two gets banned in something like Legacy, maybe, but it doesn't make the game any funner, right? So here you go. I mean, are they just chasing the bottom line? Like, let's just print cards with a million lines of text and are totally like not not even like, I mean, can anyone even tell me like right now what lines of text are on the questing beast? Like, it's like 100, right? I mean, it has like 20 abilities. Like, do any of them really make sense? It's like, okay, yeah, I think green creatures have these abilities, but I mean, I don't know. I just keep adding lines of text to cards. I mean, I guess that makes them strong, but like, is that fun? Is it interesting? Like, people like to play with powerful cards, but they also like to play formats that don't suck dick. Uh, well, I guess that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. So, in conclusion, probably a bad year for Magic. Not good. Um, we can't keep doing this banning shit. Like, it's worse now than ever because there's just more people playing Magic. So if you have more people playing Magic, not even just like paper Magic, but even stuff like on Arena, I mean, that's cards that they have to, get or get rid of or sell or whatever. You know, sometimes mistakes happen. This many mistakes the entire year, that's incompetence. Y'all better fucking better get good, get right. All right, so that's it, guys. So thanks for stopping by. Always gotta look on the bright side, though. There was some interesting stuff, even with all the really, 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 really bad stuff. But that's okay. So that's it for today, guys. So thanks for stopping by, and have a nice day.